If you're in a battle for your survival, why would you ever choose to bring a knife to a gunfight? What we're talking about today may not be that extreme, but prepping is all about maximizing our opportunity or chances of survival. In today's video, we're going to look at the pros and cons of growing meat versus vegetables. Hey, I'm Steve. Welcome to Prepared to Live. In today's video, we're going to be tearing down some of those traditions and preconceived ideas about food production. When we say food production, the first thing that most people think of is a raised bed in the backyard with some potatoes and a tomato and some cucumbers and maybe a pepper. But let's really drill down and look at the numbers and see what the numbers say. Is it better to grow vegetables or is it better to grow meat as a food production system? Today we're just simply going to look at the math and see what the math tells us. The first metric we're going to look at is caloric density. The white potato, which is largely regarded as the most calorie-dense food that we can grow, comes in at 426 calories per pound. Now, I know in some of our other videos we talk about rice and beans being 1,600 calories per pound, but that's in their dried form. When you add water and you prepare those, they're less than 426 calories per pound prepared. So that's why we're looking at the potato, because we want the most calorie-dense vegetable and we want to compare it to some meat sources. And in this case, we're going to do most of our math against a chicken, which is not the highest calorie meat product that we can produce. That chicken is going to come in at 790 calories per pound. So quite a bit of caloric difference between the white potato. But caloric density is not the only metric we have to look at when we talk about our food plan, when we talk about what's better to grow, because we also have to consider the space that we're growing in. Every single one of us have a limited number of acres or a limited number of feet that we can grow in. And as we look at that, we need to understand how much of each we can grow so that we can make an informed decision about how we want to proceed with our food production plan. We're going to look at a 4x8 section. So a 4x8 raised bed in the backyard. You're going to be able to produce roughly 60 pounds of potatoes if you're a fairly good potato grower. That 60 pounds of potatoes is going to be roughly 26,000 calories per 4x8 section. So that's not a bad caloric output when we look at that ratio of 4x8. Now let's jump over to the chicken and let's see what we come to as we look at those calories produced in the same number of square feet. So in that 4x8 or 32 square foot section, we can grow 8 chickens. A chicken needs roughly 4 square feet to be happy and to proceed to have its chickenness. So we want our chickens to still be chicken. We want them to enjoy their lives right up until the moment that they don't. So we can grow 8 chickens in that 4x8 section, and each one of those chickens is going to reach a grow out weight of roughly 3 pounds when we get to the harvest weight. So when we do the math on that, we actually end up with about 55,000 calories of chicken opposed to 26,000 calories of potatoes. So twice as much calorie in the meat as in the vegetable in the same amount of space. Let's look at another way to look at these chickens also. Maybe you don't want to harvest them for meat. Let's look at how much that 4x8 section can produce in eggs every year. So we have those same 8 chickens in that 4x8 section of space. Those chickens are going to be able to produce a conservative layer, so something like a dual purpose bird. Those chickens are going to be able to produce roughly 120,000 calories of eggs in that 4x8 section per year. So quite a vast difference. Now we can get more than one crop of potatoes in that 4x8 section, and we can certainly grow more than one generation of chicken meat in that 4x8 section. But caloric density and space, that's just 2 of the metrics that we need to consider. So the other metric we need to consider is time to grow out. So when we're beginning to look at the time to grow out, potatoes are roughly 100 days to maturity. So from the time you plant it to the time you can harvest it, it's about 100 days, or let's just say 15 weeks. Now those chickens, if you're looking at a dual purpose bird like a Rhode Island Red or something like that, you're looking at somewhere between 16 and 20 weeks to reach maturity or harvest weight. If you're growing these things generationally, that's another great thing about producing your own food. Is vegetables and meat, they're all regenerative. So you can keep producing this over and over again, and it truly is a long-term food system. So if you're producing those chickens generationally, then you're also going to add a 30-day gestation period or a 30-day window for them to hatch out into chicks. So if you're going to add that to, let's say, 16 weeks, so now we're at 20 weeks for that meat to come to harvest. So you're at 15 weeks with the potatoes, you're at 20 weeks with the chicken. So when we just look at the math, it's obvious that even though our first thought tradition teaches us that when we talk about food production, it's vegetables, we can see that we have a bigger bang for the buck, that we make a greater impact in the calories we provide for our food system if we're growing meat. I would venture to say that if you're going to try to be self-sufficient, that you have to grow meat. That's something that you're going to have to do. But maybe you live in a space where you don't have pastures. Maybe you don't have a lot of space to grow. Or maybe you live in a neighborhood and you think to yourself, well, I can't have chickens because they're too loud. Well, listen, first thing you need to do is check with your homeowners association and your county government to see if it's even legal for you to own chickens. But you don't have to have a rooster in order to have eggs or chicken meat. A rooster only is needed if you're going to produce more chickens. But if you're just going to have the eggs, you don't need a rooster, and the rooster is what's going to cause the most noise. But there's other viable food options that you can grow in a very small footprint. You can grow quail. Quail are going to produce 900 calories per pound of meat. 900 calories per pound. That's quite an exceptional output, and you can grow those in a one-car garage or underneath your deck or even on your back deck. Then you could also look at rabbits. Rabbits grow in a very small footprint, and they produce a lot of calories. 800 calories per pound is what rabbit meat is. So then you're looking at a food production system that's even higher than chickens, and that can give you a silent option in growing your food so that you can even do it right there in your neighborhood. The most important thing to remember is that these systems are there to produce food for us, to give us those options beyond just our food storage. So let's get rid of that traditional thinking, of those preconceived ideas about food production, and let's get down to the fact that we really want to be the most prepared. Now, are there other skills that come with raising meat? Absolutely. You have to have butchery skills. You have to have some basic care knowledge. But rabbits, quail, and chickens, they're all extremely easy to raise. So when you begin to look at that, don't just choose to bring that knife to a gunfight. Make sure you're prepared and that you're maximizing your chance to survive. Now, if you like this content, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell and set it to all so that you can get every video as it comes out. We produce this content weekly, and we want to thank you so much for watching today. I've got another video that I think you're going to love, so click on the end screen here and enjoy that next video. And until we see each other again, remember, we're all just growing and learning.